Okay, so for our final topic of the program, of the course, we're going to cover social and not-for-profit marketing. So this is mostly taken from the Donal Rogan book, chapter 4, part 4, chapter 14, sorry. So again, we start with definitions usually. So societal marketing and social responsibility we're going to look at. We're going to look at that in the context of business objectives and ethics and responsibilities to stakeholders. So the societal marketing concept. Earlier in the in the course, we talked about marketing orientation, companies getting the marketing concept. Now we're taking that a little bit further to societal marketing concept. So marketing orientation believes that the key task of the organization is to determine the needs and wants of target markets and to adapt the organization to delivering desired satisfactions more effectively and efficiently than its competitors in a way that preserves and enhances the consumers' and society's well-being. So key element added on there is looking at society as a whole as well. So that can be looking at climate awareness and general ethical practices, no child labour in other countries and things like that. Social responsibility then is to do with accepting responsibilities to the various public, of an organisation which go beyond contractual or legal requirements. So it's one thing following the law, but social responsibility, again, it takes it that little bit further, a little bit more responsible. So when we talk in relation to our business and ethics, how far is it reasonable or appropriate for businesses to exercise social responsibility by giving to charities, for example? Or how far is it reasonable to expect them to do this? They are not themselves charities. A business is in business to make money. And if they don't make money, then they will take their money, take their investment and put it in the bank. So where does it stop? Where does the requirement, the responsible, So firstly, we need to look at legislation. So legislation may be required to enforce social ends, safety standards, health and safety in the workplace, all that sort of thing. But ideally, organizations should avoid the need for legislation by taking earlier self-regulating action. So you often hear about industries that are self-regulated and they adhere to those internally imposed sanctions and regulations so that the government doesn't decide, you know what, those that industry is totally blah 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 or whatever the problem is. So they want to avoid that and so they monitor themselves, keep each other on track. Enlightened self-interest is that whole idea of it being good to be good. So it leads to socially responsible decisions and the idea that there's no conflict between the objectives of the firm in terms of profit making and the social and ethical obligations that society might expect of them. So it's enlightened because as hopefully you've come to realize, a mantra of mine is that in business sometimes and most of the time it's good to be good. And if you're not in one of those businesses, start looking for a job. So enlightened self-interest, as we said, leads to socially responsible decisions. When we talk about ethics, marketing ethics versus social responsibility, obviously there is an awful lot of overlap, but society expects but does not demand that firms will not act in a way which harms the general public or which is thought to be socially irresponsible. So the law will legislate for some of it, but then society just hopes that some firms will be good in some of these other areas to go beyond the law. But it does not demand. So if it demanded, then it would be enshrined in law. So it's companies who are taking it beyond the law that are engaging in good marketing ethics and so on, and socially responsible practices. So marketing ethics relate to morality rather than society's interests. Morality is essentially an individual judgment about what's right and wrong, and it can be different in different cultures as well. So it can get a little complicated. Responsibilities to customers then, so mainly providing a product or service of a quality that customers expect and of dealing honestly and fairly with customers. Consumerism is the increased importance and power of consumers. It includes the increasingly organized consumer groups and the recognition by producers and therefore their marketers that consumer satisfaction is key to long-term profitability. Rights are recognised in UK and Irish law, include the right to be informed of true facts. Sorry, I just write in Irish there. The right to be informed of the true facts, the right to be protected from unfair exploitation or intrusion. So you cannot get a call at 11 o'clock at night from a salesperson unless that has been something that has been requested by you. They're just not allowed call at those unsociable hours, as we call them. Just like you're never going to get a call at 6 a.m. The right to a particular quality of life. Responsibilities towards the community include upholding social ethical values of the community. So again, that can vary from one place to another, one country and culture to another. Contributing towards the well-being of a community. So for example, sponsoring local events and charities, providing facilities for use and so on. So responding constructively to complaints from local residents or politicians. And responsibilities towards employees can be general principles, should include good pay and working conditions, good training and development schemes, and they should extend also to recruitment policy and retirement policies. So not making it mandatory to retire before the state pension kicks in, things like that could be at play in there. Responsibilities to suppliers. It shouldn't use its power due to its large size unscrupulously. So supermarkets sometimes have been have gotten bad press for how they treat farmers and local producers, especially if they're small producers. It should not delay payments beyond the agreed limit. So again, supermarkets probably have ticked all of these boxes in all of the wrong ways. Trying to get double the normal credit agreement that would be an industry standard. Information should be kept confidential, so not passing on information to other customers and so on. Suppliers should be treated fairly, so just follow the law and follow common decency. Responsibilities to competitors, you would wonder, well, why do we're competing with them, but responsibilities to competitors are also directed by law. So there are certain things we just have to do. Conduct of fair trading, monopolies, mergers, anti-competitive practices, abuse of dominant market position, and restrictive trade practices. Those are all elements that are legislated for. Social marketing describes the use of marketing principles and techniques to influence a target audience to voluntarily accept, reject, modify, abandon behavior for the benefit of individual groups or society as a whole. So it's obviously, that's the key element. It's using your skills to do something good for society. So it can be anti-smoking campaign. It could be tips on how to reduce energy consumption. So that would have a climate benefit there, to reduce the amount of electricity you use, because to produce that electricity, perhaps oil has been burned and so on. Certain amount hopefully is renewable, but large amount is not. The process for developing social change programs that often relate to health, obesity, drugs, antisocial behavior, and welfare. So they're all elements within social marketing. The main difference between social marketing and commercial marketing, or what we just consider marketing, goods and services for profit. So social, excuse me. So social is down the left, commercial is down the right. So the selling, what you're selling usually is a behavioral change, whereas in commercial marketing, normal marketing, you're usually selling a product or service. The competitors are difficult to identify on the social side, whereas usually competitors are quite easy to identify. Any company offering a similar product or satisfying the need in a different way. Competitor to some kind of behavior change would be staying the same. That would be the competition. So it's much easier to not change than it is to change, to form a new habit or get rid of an old habit. So that's but it's a little more nuanced, isn't it? So, and then finally, emphasis for social marketing is on individual or usually societal gain as a whole, whereas the emphasis is on profit. It's for the benefit of that business that you're working for usually. So Anderson's 6 benchmarks for identifying social marketing programs are as follows. Number 1, behavior change is used to design and evaluate interventions. Number 2, audience research is undertaken. Segmentation principles are applied. Intervention strategy creates attractive motivational exchanges within the group. Intervention strategy attempts to use all 4 P's of the marketing mix. And finally, careful attention placed on the competition faced by the desired behavior. So again, what would not changing result in? So the focus on that. Not so for not quitting smoking, for example, perhaps gives a lot of people cancer, encourages maybe your kids might see you smoking, and it could lead them to smoke, and so there's other things. So that's where the marketing will look at that kind of thing to see, is there any message within that can help in the trying to affect that change that you're looking for. So not-for-profit organizations typically include charities, but obviously lots of other things, including the university that you're doing your degree in, museums, art galleries, other bodies, where it's not expected that they turn a profit in the business sense. In recent years, many non-profits have become more marketing oriented. So problems, this is usually where exam questions can come up, and the previous few slides as well. Anything where there's a list is usually a great question. And obviously for short definition type questions, any of the information is fair game. So problems, we've got 2 slides here. Many not-for-profit organizations are based on good intentions rather than good organization. So somebody wanted to do something good and set this organization up. The notion of being a business may be looked on with disdain. So they really, they look down on that sort of attitude towards running this organization. Given the voluntary nature of the organizations, there may be poor marketing knowledge. They just get what they get. It's not like they can put out a job description if they're relying on people just giving their time for free. Now, some places can, if they have a steady stream of volunteers, they can use people's strengths in the right places. Political interference can cause these organizations difficulties. Securing adequate funds, always a problem. It's a constant challenge for pretty much all not-for-profits. Given the number of volunteers involved, there may be too many committees. So everybody feels, because they're given their time for free, everybody feels that they should have a say in how things go. And maybe not everybody has a clue. It's too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes. That kind of scenario, and it can get a bit delicate. So if they don't feel like they're being listened to, or that their ideas are being taken on board, then will they stop volunteering? So that's that one. Some not-for-profit organizations are dominated by older people. Maybe this is a charity or not-for-profit that's been around a long time. People don't tend to be fired out of these places, so they could be around for decades, and they've been doing what they've been doing, the way they've been doing it for all these years, and they're going to continue doing it the way they've been doing it, because that's the way they've been doing it. And that isn't always a good thing. And so that kind of attitude can come in. So even when there are new and younger people coming in, they get hit with this wall of resistance to change and to move with the times in running things in a more efficient manner. And then finally, not-for-profit organizations, they may not have a clear strategy or direction. So as you can see, some of these points are interlinked. So they don't have a clear strategy because they don't have a business, they don't have business savvy, they don't have probably business expertise and marketing expertise to pull on. Now, marketing management issues. According to Shapiro, 4 principal business concepts provide a basis for marketing thought and action in not-for-profits. So self-interest, marketing task, marketing mix, and distinctive competence. I can't talk today. Distinctive competence. Hoping not to lose my voice before the end. Okay. So in attracting resources, the main issue in attracting resources is determining the correct appeal. How do we appeal to people to part with some money and give to this charity rather than all the others that are out there also looking for their money? And so we talk about a guilt appeal, a fear appeal, or pride appeal. So you feel proud. The feel-good factor of donating is what pride appeal is all about. So those 3 are the dominant ones in the not-for-profits. Attracting resources implies the need to examine issues such as seeking sponsorship, using advertising and PR, and personal selling, obviously. So resources will be allocated on the basis of the business the organization is engaged in, and they need therefore to define the business area of operation. Persuasion involves persuading donors or buyers, usually to part with time or cash. It may involve persuading people to use the service. So sometimes it could be we're in business, we exist to provide this to people. Maybe we're a homeless charity, getting people off the streets into hostel accommodation for the night. So we have to convince them that it's safe to stay the night with us rather than sleeping on a bench in the park or something. Sometimes it involves convincing people to do something the organization desires, but will not make a direct contribution to the organization itself. So there's lots of different persuading that's needed, more particularly in a not-for-profit than for-profit. So in our marketing mix, people is the most important. Hopefully you've kind of got that vibe now. People is the key, is the element of the 7Ps, the most important. We have no product. People is what we're all about. People are very important for many not-for-profits. Many not-for-profits are run by part-timers and then a core of full-time staff or marketing staff sometimes. Volunteers play a really important role and help keep the admin costs low. So again, they are the element of people. Volunteers may require training and skills such as responsibility, participation, decision making, and accountability. And so in terms of product, what is our product? So two sets of product policies. One is for the donor. So what are we selling as such? I know we're not really talking a physical product, obviously, but what is it they get? What are we trying to convince people? What are we trying to persuade people? So the donors, we're trying to get money from them. We're trying to get money from one set of people. Perhaps we're trying to get time off another set of people. They're both donors. They're donating either time or money. And the beneficiaries. So in the case of the hostel, providing sheltered accommodation for homeless people, then the homeless people in that case are beneficiaries. So there's something to sell to them and a different thing to sell to the donors. We're selling a feel-good factor to the donors in both donating time or money. Some not-for-profits charge for their service, in most cases to reach a break-even point. So they get some perhaps donations, or maybe they don't get any donations. So it could be a creche facility that's operating as a not-for-profit. The parents still have to pay to put their kids there, but they're maybe on a slightly reduced rate of compared to other creches. And the benefit is that the staff are well paid and well treated, perhaps, and that could be the reason that they exist. Staff in a lot of creches are not well paid or well treated. So this could be an organization to set up to provide good, stable employment for these people who are highly qualified often, and that in turn provides a more, or could provide a more wholesome environment for the parents' kids. So it could be potentially a win-win, and that would be an example where the state are not going to fund that. So that would be just a local level, organizational level. And it's just something that maybe a collection of people got together perhaps to set it up, noticing the problems with a for-profit version. So not-for-profits may receive state subvention, so they might get some kind of money. The Samaritans and lots of other helplines, they get money from the government to run their services, and they also get donations. People leave money in wills. That's usually a big part of some of those charities, money that comes in, and they get small drip feed amounts then from regular donors as well. Pricing considerations. So again, we're talking about price. We have the 4Ps, the 7Ps. We don't have a traditional product, but there's still money involved. And so that's where we're talking about. So pricing considerations are both monetary and non-monetary. The monetary considerations include the actual donations, the money coming in, the money coming from the government subvention, the admission charge or charge for the service. And the non-money includes the time being donated, the advice, the friendship, the support. Maybe it's restaurants donating leftover food or things like that, and then people agreeing to do the pickup and so on. Most non-for-profit organizations use a variety of marketing tools. So communication is the promotion element of our 4Ps or our 7Ps. The main difficulty they have is a lack of resources to finance and the expertise to know how to run a good communication campaign. So in his research into not-for-profit or non-profit organizations in the US, Drucker found that the most successful had a clear mission statement. They really know why they're here. They know why this place exists, and all the volunteers buy into that, and the donors and the recipients of the service or whatever it is. So the Salvation Army has to turn society's rejects, alcoholics, derelicts, and convicts into citizens. Now, it does sound like a very of its own time kind of a statement. It may not be quite PC, but the intention behind it is good. And so I guess they keep it. So Shapiro again drew attention to the importance of non-profit bodies establishing what their competitive, distinctive competitive, there I am again. Their distinct competence was and sticking to it. So do what you do well, and that's it. So typical exam type questions on this kind of, on this topic. Could be outline some of the challenges the not-for-profit sector faces in relation to marketing. Number 2, define social marketing and explain differences between social marketing and commercial marketing. Pricing considerations for non-profit organizations are both monetary and non-monetary. What are they? And finally, outline problems faced by non-profit organizations in relation to marketing and discuss how they might overcome them with reference to the marketing mix. So these could be either a 10 mark or a 20 mark question. And so depending on how many marks are going for it, always look at the marks first before you decide how you're going to answer this. You don't want to waste time writing pages and pages and spending a really long time on it if it stops you answering another question later on. So you have to be strict with your time. If it's a 10 mark question, spend 10 minutes on it and move on. Even if you're not finished, move on. Leave a space. You can come back to it. Maybe you started off on a roll and you were writing and writing and writing, and then you know, oh, I forgot where I was or lost my train of thought. Leave a gap, leave a half a page, leave some lines, whatever it is, move on. And then if you have time at the end, you can come back. It's much easier to get the first 4 marks out of a 10 mark answer or the first 8 marks out of a 20 mark answer, which is a pass, by the way, in both cases, than to get the last few marks, the last 4 or the last 8. In a question. So you want to make sure that you have at least started the right number of questions. Then if you have time, you can go back and waffle a bit more and add more and maybe get those extra few points, but those extra few points are going to be much harder. So going from 6 to 10 is much harder than going from 0 to 4. So you want to make sure that you get from 0 to 4 in every question you need to answer, and then add on top of that, and they're the people that will pass. You know, as I said before, so many times people don't read the question properly and don't answer enough questions. So on this paper, you have 3 full questions to answer. Make sure you answer 3 full questions. Okay, so the rest of the classes are going to be on exam prep, and we'll be going back over other topics. So if you have a particular topic that is difficult, then come to class and, you know, shout out, and we'll go back over that one. All right, thank you.